and today I will be talking about HSBC Bank. HSBC is one of the world's largest banking and financial services organizations. They serve around 38 million customers through 4 global businesses. Their network covers 67 countries and territories in Europe, Asia, the Middle East and Africa, North America, and Latin America. With around 3,900 offices worldwide, they aim to be where the growth is, connecting customers to opportunities, enabling businesses to thrive and economies to prosper, and ultimately helping people to fulfill their hopes and realize their ambitions. Listed on the London, Hong Kong, New York, Paris, and Bermuda Stock Exchange, shares in HSBC Holdings are held by 200,000 shareholders in 131 countries and territories. Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank, better known as HSBC, was established on March 3, 1865 in Hong Kong, Japan. Founder Sir Thomas Sutherland saw the opportunity as Chinese trading was increasing, especially opium trading. It was the first locally owned and locally managed bank. A second bank opened 1 month later in Shanghai. By 1875, HSBC was present in 7 countries across Asia, Europe, and North America. It financed the export of tea and silk from China, cotton and jute from India, sugar from the Philippines, and rice and silk from Vietnam. Their main focus was still in Asia, as it became the first bank to handle China's public loan for their railway construction. The 1900s was a period of both growth and difficulty for HSBC. The First and Second War caused several disruptions in their financial services. During the Second World War, only the London, Indian, and U.S. branches remained in full operation. But it was also a key component in the reconstruction of the economy in several countries in Asia. During this period, through acquisition, HSBC bought Mercantile Bank and the British Bank of the Middle East in 1959. Its major acquisition occurred on March 1991 when it combined with the Vernon Eastern Agency Limited, becoming what is formerly known as today as the HSBC Holding plc. In 1992, the newly created HSBC made a recommended offer to full ownership of the UK's Midland Bank. Following the acquisition, HSBC moved its headquarters to London. The 2000s was nothing but growth for HSBC. Through several acquisitions and expansions, HSBC started to become one of the strongest financial banks in the world. In April, they provide financial services to various different types of customers, from small and mid-market enterprises as well as multinational markets. Customers are able to get help in obtaining loans, raising their capital using the stock and bond markets, as well as decisions making in the finance world. HSBC Investment Banking has a greater focus on corporation and institutional clients. With offices in more than 60 countries, this branch of HSBC is able to offer a range of services from equities and foreign exchange to assisting in assessment management services. Global Private Banking works closely with the private banking subsidiaries of HSBC Group. Together, they provide services to high-net individuals and their families in around 42 countries. Retail banking and wealth management is a more personal type of banking which helps individuals with their personal finances in checking, saving accounts, loans including car loans and mortgage loans, and pensions. HSBC's top 3 competitors include Citigroup Bank, Bank of America Corporation, and JP Morgan & Chase. Boasting some $2.5 trillion in assets, JP Morgan Chase is the largest bank holding company in the U.S. and among the largest half dozen in the world. With some 5,250 branches in about 2 dozen states, it is among the nation's top mortgage lender and credit card issuer. Bank of America Corporation operates one of the country's most extensive branch networks, with some 4,600 locations and 1,600 ATMs. The bank's core services include consumer and small business banking, corporate banking, credit cards, mortgage lending, and asset management. Its online banking operation counts some 34 million active users and 22 million mobile users. Bank of America acquired Merrill Lynch in 2002, making it one of the world's leading wealth managers with some of $2 trillion assets under management and boasting a beefed-up trading and international businesses. Citibank represents the North American consumer banking operations of financial services giant Citigroup. The unit has more than 780 branches, mostly concentrated in the six key metropolitan areas of New York, Chicago, Miami, LA, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. Leveraging its parent breadth of financial services, Citibank provides standard banking, deposits, loans, and Citi-branded and co-branded credit cards to individuals and small to mid-sized businesses, as well as investment banking, security brokerages, transactions, and wealth management services. HSBC statements work on a fiscal year ending December 31st, 2017. The reported profit before taxes of $17.2 billion was $10.1 billion, or 141% higher, mainly reflecting a net favorable movement. On an adjusted basis, profit before taxes of $21 billion was $2 billion, or 11% higher. This was driven by the higher revenue. The reported revenue of $51.4 billion was 7% higher, partly reflecting a net favorable movement. Banking and wealth management had an excellent 2017, with strong adjusted revenue increases across a number of business lines. In retail banking, interest rate rises helped grow the revenue. Commercial banking adjusted revenue grew well on the back of the outstanding performance in global liquidity and cash management. Higher lending volumes helped credit and lending overcome the impact of narrower spreads. Global banking and markets grew adjusted revenue, driven particularly by strong growth in the global liquidity and cash management and security services. Growth in the first 3 quarters of the year in the markets and bankings enabled both to withstand the effects of subdued market activity in the fourth market. Global private banking adjusted revenue reflected the impact of the historical repositioning, but was stable over the course of 2017. The business grew adjusted revenue by 10% in target markets. As you can see here, all 5 analysts recommend for the option to be put on hold. This has been the consensus shown throughout the past few months through several analysts. HSBC spent much of 2017 shuffling the balance sheet. Earning assets were on pace to expand 35 to 40% in the year just ended, while cash on hand likely increased 25 to 30% from 2016's year-end total. Management has done a good job of curbing underperforming holdings and using the proceeds to invest in assets with higher upside. But the downside to fine-tuning the balance sheet is that HSBC operating results tend to be more volatile. This was said by Sharif Abdul from Value Line on February 9, 2018. As many analysts see it, forecasting HSBC bottom line results will be a hit or miss affair. Its credit and financial metrics have been variable, and the company continues to turn over its holdings, and there are some concerns that the equity market may be richly overvalued. One of the recent news from HSBC is the fact that HSBC plans to expand their investment in China's southern region to the rest of the country. The idea gives the clearest indication that HSBC's new management team will intensify its focus on China, betting on the country's economic growth to bolster profits that have sagged in the recent years, and low global interest, restructuring costs, and even higher regulation. In other news, HSBC Holdings agreed to pay $100 million to settle an antitrust lawsuit by over-the-counter investors, including the City of Baltimore and Yale University, who claimed they were harmed when they bought securities tied to the rigged LIBOR. The investors claimed at the beginning of 2017, HSBC colluded with other banks to depress the LIBOR rate to minimize the amount of firms had to pay out on investments tied to the rate. HSBC, Europe's largest bank, has also reported the largest difference in male and female staff salaries among large organizations in Britain, as the government looks to pressure big companies to reduce gender pay disparities. HSBC on average paid men 59% more than women, the biggest difference amongst companies with more than 5,000 employees. Two releases from HSBC Holdings was first done on March 21st, 2018, regarding the firm's turn home as protectionism bites. According to Noel Crane, chief executive of Global Commercial Banking HSBC, says overall companies are showing remarkable agility in navigating the changing trade policy landscape. They are getting on with adapting businesses, plans, and relationships to participate in shifting supply chains. Strategies including increasing regional trade, establishing joint ventures or local subsidiaries in more markets, and capitalizing on trends in consumer demands and digital technology. Another press release was on February 22, 2018, called HSBC Germany Increases Revenues and Paves the Way for Future Growth. There are no insider trade occurring within HSBC. HSBC named Mark Tucker as the new group chairman starting his position October 1st, 2017. Previous to working with HSBC, Tucker was the CEO and president of AIA Group Limited, serving in his position for 8 years. His current salary is $1.8 million. In line is John Flynn, appointed Executive Chief Director and Chief Group Executive starting on February 21st, 2018. Flynn started working for HSBC in 1989 as an international officer. During his 14 years as an international officer, he worked directly in Asia to lead and expand HSBC global markets in that area. His salary constitutes of $1.6 billion. Ian McCaig was appointed Chief Finance Director, taking his role in December 2010. Similarly to Flynn, McCaig was a prior employee of HSBC, joining the company in July 2017. His current salary is $4.6 billion. Other top management includes Elaine as Group Head of Human Resources, Samir Asaf, Chief Executive, Global Banking and Markets, Colleen Bell, Group Head of Financial Crime Risk, and Peter Boyles, Chief Executive, Global Private Banking. This graph shows the comparison in stock prices of HSBC against its top 3 competitors in the past 5 years. As shown, HSBC is failing down in comparison to its competitors. The graph shows specifically HSBC US, which could be a reason why it's lower than the other financial banks. For the past few years, it has seen a decline in the US market, whereas a growth in outside markets. The PE ratio for HSBC is about the same as all other competitors except for Citigroup. The industry average is about 16.8, which is higher than average. HSBC has a higher dividend yield than all its competitors, which comes with both negatives and positives. With a higher yield, there is a potential for more income, but also more risk. The HSBC beta is lower than the average of 1, making it less volatile than all of its other competition. The capital of HSBC is equal to total debt of $317.41 billion, as long as long-term debt of $1.21 billion and short-term debt of $166.22 billion. The ROE for 2017 was 5.9% in comparison to 2016 of 0.8%, which is a great growth for HSBC. The earnings for HSBC have been at a growth rate of negative compared to its 3 top competitors. The dividends per share have been growing at a constant rate, but are still lower than most of its competitors. The book value per share is currently at around the same average as the rest of its competitors. There has been mergers between HSBC and any other bank. The last merger was in 2002 with Bank of Bermuda. When it comes to exchange risk, HSBC represents changes in currency as part of other comprehensive income. As being such a global bank with different currencies around the world, HSBC uses the US dollar for the consolidated statements. It will hedge foreign exchange only in special circumstances. To political risk, Brexit was a big impact on HSBC, as HSBC has their headquarters in London. Over 1,000 products of HSBC are under the European Union single market legislation, making it that 20% of the jobs in HSBC London will be transferred to France in the next couple of years. HSBC also took a $1.3 billion charge due to the new tax reform in the U.S. Although many analysts have put this stock on hold, I would still buy stock of HSBC. HSBC appears to have a bright future from an income perspective. It has a dividend yield higher than most of its competitors and has an increase in both the revenue and ROE. It is in the process of making improvements to its businesses, and this could lead to a more efficient entity which is more focused on growth. Reduced operating expenses and future rises in demand for its services for customers in Asia could be the key catalyst for improvements in its bottom line. Thank you so much for listening.